Hi guys. So it's the end of my day today, and I left my phone at my mom's all day today. So I had a really in tune day today, where I just got to just be in the moment and not be on my phone. You guys know I love Mariah Carey. Don't play at me. Um, so I just left Walmart. I'm gonna go home and cook for my mom. Well, I'm gonna go to my mom's house and cook for her. Um, but anywhere my mom is always home for me. Um, so I'm back. I pulled off really quick to do a little story time with you guys. And today's story is gonna be how I became a felon. um, so, I guess the story starts. So the story starts. Um, I was with Josh at the time. Him and I were, definitely still. I don't know. I think we were very much in love at this point in our relationship, or at least I was. um, we were, I don't know, kind of living in the streets, strung out on heroin, and we were on drugs and shit. And one day I go to my dad's house, and my dad's there, my sister Brooke is there, my sister Leola was in the room. I think all the kids were there. Hold on, this is my favorite part. Sorry, had to pause for the cause. Respect the queen, guys. Mariah Carey will always be the queen. Um, so I had gone to my dad's house, and my sister Brooke and my dad, I was just like saying hi, visiting, blah blah blah, and my dad's like, "Oh, did you hear about what happened to Leola?" And that's our youngest sibling. Like, that's the baby of the family. And I'm like, "No, what?" Um, and they're like, "Oh, we don't even know if we should tell you." Building up suspense. Like, looking back, I know that they were kind of stirring the pot for sure. But, so, I'm like, "Well, what? What happened?" They're like, "Well, she got molested." And I'm like, "By who? When was this?" And already, my heart's starting to race. Like, my palms are sweaty. My fucking blood's already starting to boil. I'm like, who did what? When did this happen? I need to know every detail. And they're like, I'm not going to put the person on blast who was accused just because it doesn't matter. We're just going to call him Bob. But Bob was definitely somebody who was a part of our life, or is still a part of our life. Um, Came in our life after my mom and dad split up, and kind of, honestly, he took care of our family. He's the reason, like, we made it, honestly. And so, whatever. After, pretty much, like, after my mom and dad split, we ended up moving in with Bob. And And I'm talking a family of 7 kids, um, 8 kids, 9, 10, 11, well, whatever, a whole fucking gang of kids, like, because it wasn't just us, immediate siblings. It was a lot more of us than that. And so, yeah, whatever. We move in with Bob, and this goes on, 15, 20 years pass. And I get to my dad's, they tell me, like, well, it was Bob. And I'm like, what? They're like, you should go talk to her. And so, of course, I go in the room, and my sister's sitting in there alone. I think she's folding laundry. And I'm like, hi, baby. How are you? You okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm like, what? So, I heard you got to talk to me about something. And she's like, I'm like, and I could tell, like, she was awkward, She didn't want to talk about it. And so, I kind of break the ice, pretty much. I'm like, so, what happened, with you and Bob? Or what did Bob do to you? Or what are they talking about? And she's like, immediately just tears well up in her eyes. And she gets this really sad face, and she's like, she proceeds to tell me just how when she was a little girl that it happened, and blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, I'm like, I sit down next to her, and I just, comfort her and tell her how much I love her and that it's not her fault, and all these things, just trying to make sure that she is able to heal from that and understand that she was a victim and blah, 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 right? I've gone through a lot of therapy. And so, yeah, whatever. I talk with her, and I'm like, I'm gonna get him for you, sis. I'm gonna get him for you. Like, understand that he's not gonna get away with this. And she's like, okay, and I just let her know how much I love her, and whatever. So, a couple days pass. I ended up hanging out with my mom, who at the time was staying in a hotel with Bob. And this day in particular, my mom had taken off. I don't really know where she went, to be honest. She just kind of disappeared on us. And so Josh and I go back to the room. And we had been, at this time in our life, Josh and I had been going from Canyon City to Pueblo to Springs. We'd go stay at his mom's in Canyon City. We'd stay at my brother's in Pueblo. And then we'd stay at my dad's or with my mom in Springs. And we'd go in this little triangle almost, just because we didn't have a place of our own at the time. And also, we were strung out on drugs, so whatever. I go to Bob's this night, and he's at the motel room, and we had been sick off of heroin. Like, we couldn't find anything, we didn't have money or something along those lines. And we get back to the room, and both of us are, withdrawing. And if you're withdrawing off heroin, you're super irritable. And Bob, most of our life, or most of the time we knew him, was a pretty bad alcoholic. And he was one of these alcoholics who he'd drink, and he'd, be able to maintain, but anytime he started drinking, he'd start running in his fucking mouth. Like, I'm talking, just running his mouth. He wouldn't stop. Turn on the heater, it's kind of cold out here. And so, this night, I'm like, I was drinking this night too. And I'm like, Bob starts in talking shit, and I'm already have what he did to my sister in the back of my mind. And I'm like, he said something to me, and I'll tell you what he said to me because it matters, and it's definitely what, like, pushed me over the edge. He starts talking about how, he's in love with my mom, and how, in different, he said it a different way, but he pretty much, well, he did use the word cock block. And he told me that I need to quit being a cock block. And immediately, I jump up and I'm like, full fuck you. Don't ever fucking disrespect like that. And I'm already about to fucking smash him out. And Josh jumps in the middle and he's like, stop, just trying to calm me down. And Bob at the time like shuts up real quick. And I'm like, Bob, don't ever fucking disrespect me like that, bro. Don't ever disrespect like that in your life. And whatever. So already my blood's boiling, like I'm irritable because I'm detoxing, I don't feel good, blah blah blah. Can't find my mom, all this shit, have going on. And I'm like, Bob, don't fucking disrespect like that ever in your life. I'm gonna let you slide with that one this time, and that don't disrespect. And the only reason I'm letting you slide is because you've been drinking and I know how you get. And so we sit down and back at the table, and I think we were all sitting at the table, or Josh and I are at the table and he's at the bed. And he starts, things kind of mellow out for a second, and then he starts up again and he says something to me that it was automatic, like I should have fucked him up when he said the original thing, but when he says this to me, like it was done, it was a fucking wrap. And so he says to me, you have AIDS, which I don't. You have AIDS, you're not gonna live long enough to take care of your mom. So you need to stand aside, quit being a cock block, and let me take care of her. And so immediately it was one of these immediate, I just saw red. And everything just kind of came, like, and there was this big giant candle. It was really pretty, like in a holder, those like vases or whatever that look like they're broken glass, like glued back together. It was like one of those, but it was a good size. It's like a fish bowl, But it has a candle in it, So like somebody made that and dumped the wax and let it dry, and it was that. And so I grab that thing and I break it over his head. And when I break it over his head, I just immediately like jump on top of him. I start bombing on him, boom, 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 and I ended up like throwing him on the bed. And I get up on the bed and I'm like drilling him, and I end up like pulling him up into a headlock. And I'm like, get him, Josh, because once again, Josh is just standing there looking fucking dumb. And when I said get him, Josh, like I'm expecting like Josh to help jump this fool. Like, let's jump this fool. Fuck him. But instead, what Josh does is reaches in his back pocket and takes his wallet out. And so I throw Bob off the bed. And I do that every time. I'm sorry, guys. Fuck. So I throw Bob off the bed, and and there's blood everywhere at this point. Like, I'm covered in blood. My hand was cut. And he gets up and he runs out of the room. And we walk out. And Josh, I remember Josh telling me, like, you're fucking crazy. Like, why'd you do that? And I'm like, fuck that fool. Let's go. So we walk around the way to the gas station up the street. And I'm covered in blood. And I'm like, I go in the gas station and I'm like, can I use your bathroom? And the guy's like looking at me like, dumbass look. I'm like, pick up your fucking chin and let me use your bathroom. And so I go in the bathroom, I'm like, give me that wallet to Josh. And Josh gives me that wallet, and I look inside and there's like $500 in there. And I'm like, hell yeah, cool. And so I take the wallet and I, throw it in the toilet or the trash or some shit. Like I ditched the wallet and I kept the cash. And I'm like, we called a cab. And did we call a cab? Yeah, we called a cab. And I go get dropped off at my dad's house. And I remember like the cab driver looking at me and I'm like, just turn the fuck around and take me to my do your job and take me to my destination, bro. Don't worry about what's going on. And I'm like, why is it cold? I had the cold air on in my car. Tripping, y'all. And so I go into my dad's house covered in blood and I'm like, I go straight to my sister's room and I'm like, I got that fool, sis. Got him. And she's like happy. I'll never ever forget the just happy face I'm like, I just fucked that fool up for you. I was like, I just got that fool. And I just, I go there and I tell them the story, like what happened. I break my sister off with some money and we end up going to, score. And then I think, ended up, okay, so a couple days passed, like after we scored, whatever, excuse me, we end up in Canyon City. And it was probably a week that passed because we ended up, once again, out of money and out of dope and stuck. And so we were at his brother's house, Josh's brother. And I remember like him and I just laying in the room, like in the bed, and both of us are detoxing like a motherfucker. And so we're both in the bed just like crying, both of us just sick as fuck. And his friend walks in, one of Josh's friends. And her dad used to get a shit ton of pills, like a stupid amount. I've never met anybody who got that many pills from a single doctor in my life, ever. I'm talking like 500 pills, whatever, okay? And so she walks in, and at this point, like, she sees us, what a mess we are, and she's like, oh my god, are you guys okay? And we're like, we're fucking dying, bitch. And she's like, well, here, take these, and she breaks us off some pills, and both of us, it was like at that point, the way in our headspace, in my headspace anyway, I was like, damn, this bitch is an angel right now, she's saving us, because we were fucking wishing for death. And so she's like, come on, come to my house, you guys can come stay with us, we'll feed you, get you fucked up, and get you feeling better, whatever. And so we end up over there, and okay, so we spent a couple nights there, and so the girl's stepmom, I think that's who she was, the girl's stepmom comes to us one day. She knows our situation, we're broke, we're strung out, blah blah blah, and she's like, hey, you guys want to make $100? And she flashes us $100 bill, and we're like, fuck yeah. And she's like, well, I need you guys to go to Hobby Lobby for me. Go steal me some beads. Like, she was a beader. And she's like, go steal me some beads. And I'll even take you guys there. I'll give you guys a ride. And, give me some beads and I'll give you guys this $100. And we're like, fuck yeah, let's go. And so we pull up, we drive all the way to Pueblo, I think Pueblo West, from Canyon City, or Florence or some shit, whatever, it's all the same to me. And we go inside Hobby Lobby, and it's me and Josh. I don't even think the lady went inside with us. But I'm very always aware of my surroundings. That's why, like, when I'm making these videos, you guys see me like being aware of my surroundings. I stay just being aware. And so we're in this store, and I think I have a hair splinter, guys. Oh, that sure hurts. We're in the store, and I could tell that they were watching us. And I'm like, fuck, I'm like, Josh, I don't want to do this. I'm like, Josh, I don't want to do this. They're watching us. They're following us. And he's like, Josh was always one of these people, like, whenever I'm like, hey, they're watching us, they're following us, we're about to get caught, He was just stupid, honestly. He was dumb. And so he's jacking all these things, and it was usually one of these things where like he would do the jacking, and if I felt comfortable, I would jack. If not, like I'd be the distraction. And so whatever. At this point, I'm like, Josh, let's not do this. And whatever he does. And so we go to walk out, and of course, like immediately as soon as we walk out, like everyone who was a customer turns into fucking undercovers or fucking secret shoppers or whatever, and they like stop us. We're like, And the lady who was walking out before us turns around, she pulls out a badge, and she's like, "You guys stop." And we're like, I look at him, and we just start booking, and we start running. I run a couple blocks, and they're after us. Try to run across the street, and like a car, like I'll never forget, like a car swerving out of the way, and like hitting a curb, and cops are after us at this point, and so they ended up like coming at us from all sides, and a cop's like holding his gun on me, like stop, stop, and I just put my arms up, and I'm like, oh shit, I sit down. All right, he's like, get on your knees, suck my dick, blah blah blah, and so whatever. Um, what I didn't know, so I ended up catching. Okay, so no, what I didn't know was that they put me in Crime Stoppers, and so this whole time, like, I'm in the store jacking, like my face is fucking blasted all over, like Crime Stoppers. Um, and this was in 2011, and so whatever. I ended up catching, I think, a drug charge too, because I either had something a theft and a drug charge, and on top of the Crime Stoppers charge. So they take us to Pueblo County Jail. We get booked, and I have a F4, felony 4, and a couple theft charges. And they separate me and Josh, and so um, we end up having a detox in there, and I sat in there for a couple months. I think I did like 110 days or something, it wasn't super long, but I sit in Pueblo County and plead down my case, blah blah blah, and then I get transferred up to Colorado Springs to deal with my aggravated robbery charge, where I sit in that jail for 3 months before taking a plea and blah blah blah. Um, there's more to that story, but I think I'm gonna stop right there. Um, the next part, the next video I'm gonna do though, here's a sneak peek or here's a teaser. Um, during that time in jail, of course, Josh and I are both co-defendants. I'm gonna tell you guys about how El Paso County Jail fucked up and put him and I in the same ward. So, that's where I'm gonna leave you guys tonight. Gotta go get this dinner made anyway. I love you guys so much, and thanks for visiting with me. Don't forget, match your bra with your panties. Get your shit straight.